good.
Okay, persuasive speech. School uniforms, pros and cons. Wearing uniforms in school can improve education, reduce violence, and keep the idea of school in perspective instead of a social status. How does wearing uniforms improve education? My aunt teaches at Margaret Willis here in Fayetteville, and she teaches at a uniform school. She says that it keeps from taking time away from education when the school kids are not focused on what other kids are wearing. Also, it can be distracting for some students to pay attention these days because of the dress codes in school. It is one less thing that a classroom teacher has to be concerned about with 20 students in a classroom. She's one teacher in a classroom with 20 kids, and their assistant cutbacks. That is very distracting. Okay. Second slide. Debate of uniforms, the pros and the cons. This came from Education Bug online. The pros are it's easy to have uniforms than to address independent clothing. Money is not an issue. They can be bought at Walmart or American Eagle, but Walmart sells. I know that at Margaret Willis they are required to wear khaki pants or black pants, navy pants. That's the colors, and they can intertwine that any way they want to. Reduces cliques. The emphasis on community spirit. I think on Fridays they can wear their school shirts, like they have a logo shirt. They can wear that. Makes it easier to identify children on field trips. Helps students realize a person's personality goes past their dress. So those are the pros to wearing uniforms in school. Cons, next slide. It can interfere with kids' right to express themselves. You do run into that they have the right to be who they are. Some people argue that it's an unnecessary expense. Their kids are only going to be wearing these uniforms at school. They're not going to wear them on Saturdays. They're not going to wear them in the summertime. So that can be a con for some parents. More trouble for administration to enforce. You know, is that one more thing that the principal has to keep under control? Is these kids didn't wear uniforms today. They need to come to the office and get uniforms that we have on hand. They can be ugly, not good for self-image. I mean, I don't know. I think they look better than what some kids wear. That would be my opinion. Keeps kids from accepting kids with other styles. Are we keeping them from being out in the real world where you can't control what you see when you're out? Some people argue that that may be an issue. Should teachers have to abide by the same regulations that the students have in these schools? At Margaret Willis, they do not. The kids wear uniforms and the teachers wear normal street clothes. I disagree with that. I think that if you're going to make the children do that, then in that environment you should always also follow those same standards. How does that look if a parent walks in and you're making their child wear this, but you've got on regular clothes? That's just saying one thing and doing another. If students don't abide by this, they get detention, in-school suspension, and a loaner set of clothes for the day. They keep a clothes closet that I think local churches here keep the closet filled. So uniforms help create a whole environment feeling. It does make you feel like when you walk into school that everybody's on the same page. They've got school spirit. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it looks nice. Uniforms started in private schools, and they slowly influenced public schools. That came from Uniformity Carolina Weekly online. Wearing school uniforms could hurt retailers. People depend on the kids back to school, getting ready for school, to buy clothing. So if we were only buying uniforms, that could reduce that. Education being most important nowadays, violence is an issue in our public schools. Uniforms would help. How does wearing uniforms reduce violence? Slide 4. You can monitor what is brought in and out of the school, so it's easier to monitor. Gang colors are not accepted. It helps schools see who does not belong on campus. I think that's an issue we face now with people walking into the schools, walking into the playgrounds. It would be easier to identify those who do not belong. Students are not as distracted. Helps teachers focus on bigger issues than dress. That's the benefits and the issues. The issue is it does violate the freedom of speech, which I touched on a while ago. So that is the biggest issue I could find in my research, is that you do violate our main motto, which is you have the freedom to express yourself. Does wearing violence comes from kids feeling inadequate and less than. Uniforms could help kids feel more adequate about themselves. Does wearing uniforms keep kids from feeling less than? Kids need to learn to dress for success. The expense of what is in style is not important. Everyone is equal. We need to teach our kids that we are equal. Uniforms would help prepare kids for the real world and how to present themselves as leaders. At Harnett Primary, where my kids go, leadership is a big thing that they really touch on, and they want our kids to grow up in an environment and know how not to be a follower and a leader. So we really stress that. Makes those kids who are less fortunate not to feel inferior to other children. It is not a fashion competition, and that came from a book, Dress Codes for Schools. Basic examples of some dress codes: no bare feet, short shorts, undergarments being visible, low cut, strapless, insulting clothing, and gang related. And I touched on what uniforms are, and that's khakis, navies, blacks, tucked in with belts. Education, safety, and making our kids feel adequate are very important to us as parents and teachers. Wearing uniforms in public schools could bridge the gap for all classes of people in the United States. The statistics are clear, and we should consider all the good uniforms have to offer. With this being said, do you think uniforms will work for you and your children? How would you react to the news of uniforms being accepted? Remember, the main goal is to ensure that kids are well educated, safe, and they can feel like they can conquer the world. Next slide. These are some statistics. Schools in 21 states in the United States have some sort of dress code. States with the most schools wearing uniforms: California, Florida, Illinois, New York, and Texas. Under Bill Clinton's administration, that's when the fuel of uniforms really took off. So that was the main cause of that. And the following slide. This was a survey done in 95. The crime rate dropped 95%. School suspension dropped 90%. Sex offenses reduced by 95%. And vandalism went down 69%. Survey in 94, assaults in grades K through 8 went down 85%. That is huge. I mean, the percentages there are just staggering. I really wasn't sure which way I fell on this, but after seeing the surveys and the statistics, it's clear to me that I think uniforms would be the best way to go. Any questions? No?
Okay. I actually hosted a debate on high school.
Oh, wow.
That same issue, and I was actually on the other end of it.
Okay.
And one of the points I proposed then was that we see a lot of times that in the younger grades compared to the older grades, kids tend to be a little bit more focused on education, and there's not a huge distraction of dress code over education, because education is still fun then.
Right.
Compared to older, when kids tend to be more violent and distracted. So would you agree that the issue of uniforms in school becomes more subjective to the kid's age as well?
The older they get, it may be more needed as they get older, less than not when younger. Probably so. It's probably easier to get the younger kids to wear them versus your high school or middle school kids, but it would probably be more needed the older they get. I agree with that. Yes.
Hey, I wear uniform in middle school and high school. We put our own style to our uniform, and when we had to have our colors
Right.
and stuff. We have our own. I don't feel like it violates our personality at all. When we wear our uniform, we usually put like a sweater or something over it. We incorporated our own style too, and we still have our uniform.
That's right.
It just increased
So you don't feel like you missed out on anything by wearing a uniform to school? Okay. Very interesting. Yes.
You didn't compare that survey 95 compared to today, but they are still absolutely similar.
I have not thought about that, but I doubt it. I would be surprised if they were, because you've got a new generation, and that's been 12 years ago. So,
I
yeah.
remember when we was elementary school that they didn't do uniforms at that time, but at that age, then they were going to change uniforms. the feeling I guess so many parents is that it's better about the cost, and
Mhm.
maybe that's not doing it.
Mhm.
But, I can see where it would cause problems.
I can definitely see the pros and the cons, and it's one of those things that I'm for or against. I really don't know that I have a side, but it was interesting to do the research and see. And I mean, I feel the same way about year-round school. It's okay with me, or it's not okay with me. I mean, I could work with it either way. Okay. All right.